Hello everyone. Today we will discuss coherence and cohesion in discourse analysis. The topic is relevant in the field of discourse analysis and the subfield of discourse analysis, pragmatics. So let's learn in detail what is coherence and what is cohesion. How can we differentiate coherence from cohesion, and what are the major cohesive devices? So we might not cover all cohesive devices in this lecture. Therefore, we will divide this lecture into 3 or 4 parts. Let's begin and learn what is coherence and cohesion. Coherence and cohesion in discourse. You can see, right, that the hands are well knitted, they are joined. So it means that if our writing is well knitted, well connected, that will be understandable, that will be comprehensible, right? And we will be easy to understand by other. And if there is no coherence, no logical connectivity, and there is no cohesion, we do not use cohesive devices, we do not link and connect one part of discourse with another, so there'll be miscommunication and your text, your discourse won't be understandable to your audience or reader. So when discourse is logical, consistent, understandable, and has continuity, is said to be coherent. So when your discourse, whenever you speak or you write, and every sentence, every word is linked with another one, right? There is logical connectivity. You see that coherence is something that is logical. Your mind tells you, okay, that what to use, what not to use. What sentence, what word should I use and what should I not use. So this is totally logical, and this is outside of the language. So when discourse is logical, consistent, right, there's consistency. It's not okay, there's sometimes you take one chunk of discourse and then another chunk of discourse and you combine it. So that won't be understandable. There should be consistency. Consistency means that the verb form you're using, that should be consistent. For example, in one sentence you're using present tense, so in another sentence you must use present tense. If in sentence 1 you are using present tense, and in sentence 2 of the same discourse you are using past tense or future tense, so there'll be no consistency, right? If, for example, that you are using pronouns, so they should be consistent. If you're using adjectives, those should be consistent. If you are using structure, so your structure should be parallel structure, right? So if like in one sentence you're using one structure, so in another sentence you should also use the same structure. So this will make your discourse consistent. So there should be logical connectivity and consistency, right? Consistent. Then your discourse will be understandable and when it has continuity. So it's said to be coherent. So coherent is a logical connectivity. When you are logically connected, right, your one sentence is logically connected with another one, and it depends on the mind, because it is something outside of the language or the text. Now cohesion, on the other hand, is achieved by organizing and structuring information using available language resources. So in coherence we don't have language resources. We do not use cohesive devices, for example, therefore, but, and, he, they, right, and however, after, blah, blah, blah. So we don't use such kind of cohesive devices in coherence. So when we say that a discourse is well coherent, right, or there is coherency in your discourse, it means there is logical connectivity. While on the other hand, in cohesion we use some language resources, as I told, conjunctions, references, ellipses, like omissions, right, and substitutions, synonym. So these all are cohesive devices, and we name them like language resources. So in resources such as transition words, pronouns, and lexical repetition to create clear connection between sentences and ideas. So in cohesion, excuse me, in cohesion, you connect one part with another by using transition words, by using some repetitive structure, by using some pronouns, some references, etc. And these are language resources. While in coherence, we don't have such kind of thing. There is only logical connectivity. Coherence versus cohesion versus coherence. Cohesion. Lexical and grammatical choices that make a discourse a connected whole. So you see what is cohesion? We have some lexical and grammatical choices. As I told, pronouns are there, lexical repetitions are there, conjunctions are there, synonyms are there, right? So we have some lexical and grammatical choices. And in coherence, there is a logical and common sense judgment by the reader or hearer. If you are a reader or you are a hearer, and if my discourse, my speech that is not well coherent, it's not logically connected, then my reader, my audience won't understand. Because if I say something, so my audience, my reader will also use common sense and judgment to understand me. And if they don't understand me, it means there's no logical connectivity in my discourse. Key insight from Halliday and Hassan, 1976. Cohesion in English involves four main devices, according to Halliday and Hassan. Hassan is the wife of Michael Halliday. So these are the four main devices. We have references, we have ellipsis and substitution, we have conjunctions, we have reiterations like lexical cohesion. So these are the four main cohesive devices in cohesion, according to Halliday and Hassan. Now, the first one we are talking here, that is reference. Definition. The use of pronouns such as she and her, demonstrative pronouns such as this, that, and comparative, for example, more, less, to refer back to forward in discourse. So this is called reference because we are referring back to something. When we are saying, okay, this is a book, okay, or I need this book, or I need that, is because the when I say this book, that will be adjective. If I say that I need that, okay, or I need this, so this and that are demonstrative pronouns, right? If we discuss here, are they here or not? The use of pronouns, okay, like for example, she and her, and then we have demonstrative like this and that. So we have personal pronoun like she. If I say that she takes interest in study, so she refers back to someone that I already mentioned. If I say that I like that, so that refers to something that I previously mentioned. Right, so these are references. Similarly, that comparative like more or less are also references which refer back to something. For example, when we say that Leila was invited to undertake work at the Fata University as a coordinator and lecturer. So she took up the opportunity. She eventually decided to return to the Pakistan. So you can see that here I use she, which refer back to Leila. And again I say that she eventually refers back to Leila. So we call them what? Cohesive device. So references are used as cohesive device. Here we have explanation. The pronoun she, her, infer back to Leila. So there might be also her. Leila was invited to undertake work at the Fata University as a coordinator and lecturer. She took up the opportunity. She eventually decided to return to Pakistan. Right? So I think there is no use of her, but her is also a reference and is used as a cohesive device. Now pronoun indicate that relevant information should be retrieved from earlier in the discourse. So pronouns are used when something earlier mentioned in the discourse and we refer back to that discourse. Now we have some more explanation. Referential meaning and cohesion. Halliday and Hassan, 1976. Pronouns are semantically empty until they are filled by their referent. If you say that she, he, it, they, we, you, etc. So they are empty actually, semantically empty. They do not have meaning until they are filled with something that has previously or already mentioned in discourse. So they are empty, right, until they are filled by their referents. So this relationship creates cohesion in discourse. So we have here coreferentiality. All pronouns in the example refers to Leila. This connection ensures the text is cohesive and understandable. And given information. So pronominal reference signals information already introduced in discourse. When we have pronominal references, he, she, it, they, so they refer back to something that something has already introduced in discourse. Now ensures smooth flow and readability for the hearer and the reader. Your discourse is readable and is understandable by the reader. If there is speaking, so your speech is understandable to the hearer or the reader. Anaphoric versus cataphoric reference. Endophoric versus exophoric references. So endophoric references points within the text. We have cohesive devices, endophoric references. Example, Leila was invited, so she took up the opportunity. So she is the example of endophoric references, which is taken from inside the text. The pronoun she refers back to Leila because Leila has already mentioned in previous discourse or in previous sentence. Exophoric reference points outside the text, not as a cohesive device. So exophoric references that is something that is outside of the discourse. It's not used as a cohesive device. For example, look at him there. When I say look at him there, so the pronoun him I use, it does not refer back to someone already mentioned, because I am pointing out someone that is outside of the text when I say look at him. So I point out someone that is outside of the text. It means, okay, for the him, there is no referent which has already mentioned in discourse or in the text. So we have exophoric reference, there is points outside the text. Example, look at him there. So the pronoun him refers to the person outside the text, not inside the text. Example of endophoric and exophoric references. Endophoric within the text, for example, Stuart, it might be on the other ones. That is example of endophoric reference. It refers to the previously mentioned photographer. That is backward reference. Right? When we say it might be on the other ones, so it refers back to something that has already mentioned in the discourse. This is the example of endophoric reference within the text. Exophoric outside the text. Allison's look at him there. So him refers to a person in photograph that relies on external context, not internal context. That's not the text something has already mentioned. But when I say look at him in the photograph, so there is external context. Anaphoric reference, that is backward, and cataphoric reference, that is forward. So inside, we can say the types of endophoric reference. Within endophoric reference, we have two types of references. One is called anaphoric, one is called cataphoric. Anaphoric reference backward, right? Something already mentioned, and then you are using reference. And cataphoric reference, that is forward. First you use a pronoun and then you are giving reference for that. For example, anaphoric reference. An anaphoric reference occurs when a word or a phrase refers back to something mentioned earlier in the discourse. For example, Sarah loves painting. So first Sarah is mentioned and then we have pronoun she. So she spends hours working on her art. So she refers back to Sarah. So she is the example of anaphoric reference. That is backward. It refers to something that is already mentioned. Now, Explanation. She refers back to Sarah, that is called antecedent. Example 2, I bought a new book. It is really interesting. So it refers to the book, right? Explanation, it refers to the book that is already mentioned. So refer to a new book. It refers to a new book, and a new book that is mentioned in the previous sentence. So these are the example of anaphoric reference, which is one of the type of endophoric reference. Then we have cataphoric reference, that is forward. First we are using pronoun and then we are using or giving reference for that. A cataphoric reference occurs when a word or a phrase refers forward to something mentioned later in the discourse. For example, before he even spoke. So first we are using pronoun he, and Tom could feel the tension in the room, and then we are giving reference. So first we are using pronoun and then we are using reference for that. This is the example of cataphoric reference. Explanation. He refers forward to Tom, that is antecedent comes later. Example 2, although it was difficult. First pronoun is used, the exam went well. So this it refers to the exam. It refers forward to the exam. So these are the example of cataphoric reference, which is one of the type of endophoric reference. Anaphoric reference, cohesive link within the text. And then we have exaphoric reference, non-cohesive, relies on the context we mentioned. And within endophoric we have anaphoric reference, points backward, and we have cataphoric reference, points forward. This is the chart you can see. Reference can be endophoric and reference can be exaphoric. And within the reference can be exaphoric or the reference can be endophoric. And within endophoric we have cataphoric and we have anaphoric. So this was all about introduction to coherence and cohesion, the difference between coherence and cohesion. I differentiate both of them by giving example, and then we discuss in detail cohesive devices. And cohesive devices, they are used in cohesion to make your discourse and a text understandable. So we use some language resources such as references, substitution, etc. So in this part of the lecture, I just focus on references. In the next lecture, we will be focusing on cohesive devices and we will be discussing types of reference in cohesion. Right? We will discuss types of references in cohesion. So please do provide your comment so that I upload next lecture in coherence and cohesion. Thank you so much.